All eyes continue to watch the dangerous storm that will likely hit a very big portion of the United States from coast to coast as we get towards the end of this week, with potent impacts on the way from a blizzard to tornadoes. This video has the latest overview of those impacts within the next 7 minutes, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. In the last video, I broke down the atmospheric setup that is likely going to lead to the big storm by the time we get to the end of this week. If you want to check that out, make sure you're clicking the link down in the description of this video after you watch this one. But for now, I want to go ahead and start this video by giving you a look at the latest trends with this blended future radar guidance with your GFS ensembles and what they're indicating for that storm that's on the way by the time we get to the end of this week and into the upcoming weekend. Let's start with the near-term trends, though, because we actually have seen a trend up in some of this action that we're likely going to see from parts of Missouri and southern Illinois, back down into parts of eastern Oklahoma and Texas, and then into the lower Mississippi Valley as we go out of our Wednesday, March 12th into Wednesday night in the early part of our Thursday, March 13th of 2025. Overall, the severe weather threat out of this action does not look to be too significant, but at least some isolated damaging winds, possibly even some hail or a couple of tornadoes, couldn't be ruled out, especially as you get into around that Arklatex vicinity there, around the Arkansas, Texas, and Louisiana border. Overall, the activity looks like it will wane by the time it moves east into our Thursday. It's something we'll have to watch, though, but all eyes around this point by the time we go out of our late Thursday and into Friday. We'll begin to turn to what is going to be moving in from the western United States, with a strong low-pressure system already moving on out into the front range of the Rockies there through eastern Colorado and towards places like Kansas and Nebraska into our early Friday morning. We're likely going to see moisture beginning to get pulled north into those zones, although it won't necessarily be coming from the sky and falling as rain or storms just yet. Where we will be seeing a lot of precipitation, though, is back behind this low as it transports all of this moisture out of the Sierras and Cascades there from California up to Washington and Oregon, and then slides it right on through the west as parts of Nevada, Idaho, and then eventually by this point in time on the frame on screen, a lot of the Four Corners regions and those higher elevations from Utah to Arizona to New Mexico to Colorado are likely going to be getting some hefty snow, even on up to Montana, Wyoming, some decent snowfall as you get up in elevation as this system makes its way on through. And then the low pressure becomes even stronger through the day Friday, and it's by this point in time that we're likely going to begin to see our dynamic impacts on all fronts of the storm as we get into our late Friday afternoon into our Friday evening. With low pressure pivoting right on over here into parts of eastern Nebraska, we'll likely see a strong southerly flow right out ahead of it, dragging a threat for severe weather with that south to north flow of moisture. Anywhere from parts of the lower Mississippi Valley where you see those greens exiting Oklahoma, Texas, and then into some parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Kentucky and Missouri, all the way on up to Illinois, Iowa. We could even see some severe weather into some parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin, depending on how far north we get some of this instability. Something we're going to watch for Friday and Friday night. What we'll also be watching is wherever this likely thin band of snow that could lead to blizzard conditions with the high winds as well, where that's going to go out of Friday and then into our Saturday as we see this system sliding east out of places like the Dakotas and Nebraska with that snowfall and then into points eastbound. It looks like impacts will continue to move in the form of some scattered showers and storms, some of which could be stronger anywhere out of the Mississippi Valley all the way over to the Ohio Valley and Great Lakes by Saturday morning if this guidance continues to hold. Meanwhile, snow wrapping back around somewhere on that backside of the storm into the Dakotas and Minnesota as we go through the day Saturday. The confidence from this point on in exact areas where we see severe weather begins to wane down. It looks like it's around the Mississippi Valley for Friday night, but will we see severe weather farther north as the low tracks north into the Great Lakes and then eventually southern Canada through the day Saturday? Or will a lot of our action be with that secondary low that's likely going to develop back on the south side of all of this energy down here? It looks most likely that we're going to have the best chance for severe weather with the secondary low, and that's probably going to lead to at least some heavy rain. More than likely, though, some of those stronger storms here as you get from the Gulf Coast all the way on up into the Ohio Valley as we get into the afternoon and evening Saturday. So if you find yourself in these dark greens on screen around the Saturday evening time frame, we could be going strong with severe weather there while we continue to watch the original low continuing to bring some snowfall on up into places like Minnesota. From here, the impacts become even a little bit more unclear, but it looks like parts of the Appalachians exiting the Ohio Valley and then getting closer to the East Coast is when we'll likely see impacts out of Saturday night and into our Sunday, March 16th. By the end of the day, Sunday and into our Monday is when it looks like a lot of these impacts should be getting closer to the coast, and through the day Monday is when things should begin to clear out. Keep in mind, again, that we are still a decent ways away, especially from the weekend parts of this storm, so things will change, but that's just a general overview of the timing and some of the impacts that various areas could see. One reason the storm is going to be so strong, I talked about this in the last video, but I want to reiterate this again. It's this jet stream energy, this trough, that dig in the jet stream that is going to be kicking up 15 to 20,000 feet into the atmosphere, fueling this storm. You see this area I'm circling around and ahead of this piece of energy is especially where that best chance for severe weather is going to be. And it's a broad piece of energy, so that's why anywhere from far eastern Texas and Oklahoma all the way from the lower Mississippi Valley up to the upper Mississippi Valley could be watching a pretty broad regional severe weather episode with many hazards, including gusty winds, hail, tornadoes, as we go through late Friday night into our Saturday. From there, we've still got this big trough moving east, so anywhere around and east of that jet stream energy could continue to be watching a severe weather threat through our Saturday into Sunday, getting closer to the east coast, wherever we see the most instability being pulled up towards the two pieces of low pressure driving this massive system. That's where we're going to have the best chance for severe weather. This is a very dynamic storm, and I guarantee day by day we will be watching dangerous threats crossing parts of the country, and that's why you need to be prepared and staying tuned for those latest updates. Keep in mind that as we go into future videos, I likely will provide a little bit more in the way of detail on specific impacts like high wind, snow, and rain totals, severe weather impacts for specific zones. Since we're still far away from the storm, though, I just want to finish by recapping the information and the broad data that I've just provided. Of course, as we go out of March 12th and 13th into the early part of March 14th, it looks like parts of the western United States, especially as you go up in elevation, will be dealing with wind and some snowfall coming on down. Eventually, we'll see that snow and possible blizzard conditions moving on out over parts of the north central plains. Some of that could extend over into Minnesota and even some areas that start out the storm Friday and Friday night, seeing severe weather. That severe weather threat's going to be the highest, though, in some of those orangish shades as you go back down the Mississippi Valley Friday and Friday night, and then eventually into our Saturday and Saturday night as that secondary piece of energy kicks up from Kentucky and Tennessee back down into other parts of the Mid-South. I guarantee you there are still some questions as to how far north some of the severe weather could extend as we go into the early part of the weekend. Eventually, by the time we get to the back part of the weekend, out of Saturday into Sunday, how severe will this storm be in terms of all of its impacts by the time it gets towards the East Coast? Those are questions I'll be covering and breaking down in more detail as we get closer to the specific storm. For now, though, make sure you're hitting the subscribe button so you don't miss any of those future updates right here at One Nation Weather. I'll see you back here next time, and thank you so much for watching. God bless.